Ladies and gentlemen, I want to announce right here, right now, I am dedicating my life to global warming and climate change. And I've proposed a bill saying we should cut the military budget about 90% and use that money on global warming, climate change, renewable energy, guys. April Fools, obviously, I'm just kidding. But we've got some interesting stuff to get to today on this episode of Welcome to World War III. China just completely controlling the NBA. It's unbelievable how much control and power China has over the NBA. It really is remarkable, and I have to give the Chinese credit. After a boycott, Chinese television is again airing NBA games. China Central Television stopped showing the games in 2019 after a Houston Rockets executive expressed support for pro-democracy demonstrations in Hong Kong. So China, actually, let me just read this entire thing. Now listen to this statistic. This is how fucked the NBA is. The NBA is controlled by China. Just listen to this. The NBA has targeted China and its population of 1.4 billion for roughly half a century. China now has more fans of the league than there are in the United States, a country of 330 million. Before the pandemic, the NBA's top stars routinely traveled to the country between seasons to promote sneakers. Since 2004, the NBA has played dozens of games there. So that little factoid that China has more fans of the NBA than America does. That is how effed the NBA is, and I have to give China credit. You know, there's this report that they're starting to air games. Obviously, they're going to do that. The amount of leverage China has in terms of over the NBA politically is crazy. If there is a bigger fan base of the NBA in China than in America, the influence is unbelievable. And obviously China gets pissed at Daryl Morey for coming out and being pro-democracy, which, oh my God, an American citizen is pro-democracy. Obviously an American citizen is going to be pro-democracy. And then you've got NBA players backing up China because China writes all their checks and they get most of their money from China because China has more fans of the NBA than the United States does, and China has unbelievable leverage. Obviously, China is going to start showing NBA games again. They tell their citizens, you like this, you like the NBA, and it gives them great leverage and great governing power over the NBA, and the NBA is in a terrible position to where most of their fans are from China. Oh my, I don't know how true that is. But even if it's like a 50-50 split, that just goes to show you how controlled the NBA is. And it's not even like the NBA is, even if the NBA wasn't controlled, to have more than half of your fans or more fans from another country is so unique and so weird, and obviously isn't the case with any other major sport in North America. You could say the NHL, most fans are from Canada, the United States. MLB, you know, there is some Dominican support with the MLB, but most fans are from the United States. And then NFL, obviously, American football, most fans are from the United States. So that was just a mind-blowing thing. And then, of course, we had the thing with Daryl Morey just posting something, China getting so angry about it, and then the American NBA stars coming out in support of China because China writes their checks. And these NBA players have absolutely no clue what the Chinese are doing, how influential they can be. If you ask any one of these guys, they would say Russia is more of a threat to America than China is. I'm sure they would. They love China. They go there every offseason. Oh my God, does China have the NBA by the balls? And I give China credit. It is so smart. This is what they do. They have slave labor. You have Apple sending all of their jobs overseas because it's quicker, it's easier, it's cheaper to produce your products in China. They've got Apple by the balls. They've got all these major corporations by the balls, and these major corporations have crazy power in America and really can control the narrative on China. So having this governing power, having more fans be in China, meaning if you're the commissioner of the NBA, you can't piss off China because there's more fans of your sport in China than in the NBA. You're getting most of your revenue, or at least a significant amount of your revenue, from the Republic of China. Wow. That was crazy to hear. And now this is actually what happened. The dispute between China and the NBA began in the fall of 2019 when Daryl Morey, then an executive with the Houston Rockets, shared an image supporting a pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong. He posted it just as the Los Angeles Lakers and the Nets were getting set to play a preseason game in China. The social media post angered the Chinese government, causing games to be pulled off the air and Chinese companies to pull their sponsorships from the league. So this whole situation happened because of one social media post and the Chinese government getting so pissed at the NBA. And it gets to the point where you've got NBA superstars defending China. Daryl Morey, an executive, says, you know what? I'm pro-democracy. Oh my God. It's such a crazy take in America to be pro-democracy and to support the Hong Kong protests. And then the NBA players back up China because they're getting more money from China than they are America. Oh, man. I give China credit. This is amazing. This is not good for the United States. Not horrible for the NBA. Oh, my God. Horrible. Horrible for the NBA. But for China to be able to leech themselves around these major corporations in America, to go so far as to say, most of these people in China, I feel like the Chinese government is almost telling these people, you must be a fan of the NBA, right? So you get more fans in China. That's going to give them more power to dictate what happens in the NBA in terms of their political leaning. The NBA has to be nice to China. There's more fans of their sport from China. They get a ton of revenue from China. It's almost like the Chinese government has infiltrated the NBA to the point where they're forcing their citizens to be NBA fans to gain political leverage. All right, here's another thing. I saw this liberal post yesterday. This is not a former president. This is a criminal con artist who is repaying his Russian debts to a man who gave him his start. So guys, we can't keep doing this. I thought and I assumed that many people would be smart enough to finally realize, even the people on the alt left would finally understand that Donald Trump, no, he's not in bed with the Russians. Guys, if Donald Trump was in bed with the Russians, don't you think Vladimir Putin would have invaded Ukraine when Donald Trump was in office so he could go easy on the sanctions? Let's put two and two together. The fact that this is even still a thing and people still believe this, why would Vladimir Putin wait? If Trump is in bed with Putin and Putin controls Trump, why would you not invade Ukraine during the Trump presidency? Come on, guys. It's like, let's put two and two together. If Donald Trump is a Russian asset, Vladimir Putin would invade Ukraine during the Trump presidency. And again, you're saying Trump's a Russian asset, so then Donald Trump wouldn't levy hard sanctions on Russia along with the rest of NATO. Can we put two and two together? Can this please get dispelled at this point? We already spent millions of dollars on the Mueller investigation, on the Mueller report. What a complete failure that was. But now we've still got people that believe Donald Trump is a Russian asset to Vladimir Putin. And it makes so much sense that Putin waits for Trump to leave the White House to invade and now gets hit with historic state sanctions from the Biden administration. It makes perfect sense, guys. Come on. Just a little critical thinking skills. That's all I ask. Just a little bit. Just the bare minimum, guys. The bare minimum, please. Oh, my goodness. I thought we weren't going to have to deal with that anymore. Just a few months ago, the Pentagon reported Russia had hypersonic missiles far beyond you. Oh, my goodness. Okay, I'm sorry. Just a few months ago, the Pentagon reported Russia had hypersonic missiles far beyond U.S. technology. Now they claim the Russian army is running out of bullets and gas. The propaganda isn't even consistent anymore. Yeah, so The Pentagon told the American people that Russia has far advanced military technology? Come on. That is Western propaganda. That is fear-mongering. They've got hypersonic missiles that the United States doesn't have. Guys, Russia's military technology, their military advancement, this is Cold War level military technology. That's what Russia has, okay? It says they've got hypersonic missiles far beyond U.S. technology, really? Far beyond China technology? Boy, that must mean we suck at innovation. We're a capitalist society and we must just suck because our military budget is 15 times the Russian military budget, but the Pentagon is telling us that Russia has military technology that's far greater than ours. Wow. Where's our money going? Guys, it's bullshit. I don't know if this is real. I saw it on Reddit, but still, come on. Now, this is something that just blew my mind in San Francisco. A sad reality in San Francisco. I've seen people post signs asking burglars not to break into their cars. But this sign hits the owner of this car, left their glove compartment open to show there was nothing to steal. I'm a teacher with 4 jobs. Please break into a Tesla instead. So apparently it's gotten so bad in San Francisco, the car theft, the overall robbery, you have people are forced to put signs on their cars saying there's nothing here to be stolen. That's how bad it's gotten. And those same citizens that reportedly, that's when you go alt-left, and that's when you have these leaders that are just alt-left. You put that together, this is what you get, just crazy crime. All the people that elected these leaders are now apparently fleeing from California into other places like Texas, where they will elect those same leaders. And then it's just a perpetual motion. I don't know how true that is, but it's the idea of you've got a person that's far left. They elect far left leaders. That leads to absurdly high crime rates. They leave that area because they elected far left leaders. That leads to crazy high crime rate, which forces you to put, I'm a teacher with 4 jobs, please break into a Tesla on your window because the burglary is so bad. You then move to Texas, where you try and elect those same alt-left leaders to make Texas that bad. I don't know how true that is. People have been saying that's what's been happening. All these people on the left moving to Texas, making it. They're moving because they elected really bad left-wing politicians. They moved to Texas and they still want to elect really bad left-wing politicians. Then they're going to have to move somewhere else, and then they're going to try and elect. I don't know how true that is. I know there is an exodus of California. Maybe it's overblown, maybe it's not, but that's just a funny theory. I mean, at what point, if you're going outside and you're seeing people with this, having to put this on their window, at what point do you say, maybe our government, maybe our mayor at this point, the local level, they're not doing a good job with crime. We need some radical change. You know, at what point do you think that's probably a good idea to say? All right, guys, and then we've got the Ukrainian Air Force talking about the Russia-Ukraine conflict coming out. This was yesterday. The Ukraine Air Force would like to address misinformation. We got to stop using that word. We have got to stop using the word misinformation. It's become weaponized. Please stop using that word. That is not a good word. It's an enabler. It is an enabler. I did a video on the word yesterday. But it says the Ukrainian Air Force would like to address misinformation published in multiple Western media outlets regarding the situation in the Ukrainian sky and support from our NATO allies. So this is a long thread, and I've highlighted some of the key talking points. Myth: Ukraine's successes on the ground will win the war. Truth: air superiority is the deciding factor in this war. Air superiority has played a key role in all wars since World War II. I mean, take a look at America, Japan, the United States and Japan in World War II. That was fought mainly in the air. It depends on the war. I don't know about this, the air superiority being 1,000% critical in terms of this war, considering these are landlocked bordering nations. In something like World War II, where we're fighting on islands over the Pacific, I would agree. Air superiority is very important. No doubt about that. Next one, myth: Ukraine's Air Force is equipped to effectively defend the country against Russia. Truth: Russia's Air Force is many times larger than Ukraine's and has access to more more advanced radar and missile technologies. We already knew that. They're not telling us anything we didn't know. Myth, the U.S., this is the crazy one. Myth, the U.S. and NATO are providing Ukraine with needed weapons. Allies are doing everything possible short of direct involvement in the war. I would say that's pretty close to accurate. And then it says, truth, to date, our allies have not answered our calls for air defense support, fighter jets. So once again, this is just Ukraine asking for more support. You cannot fault them. But at the same time, the NATO alliance has made it very clear that we will not go to World War III over Ukraine. We're just not going to do it. NATO's made it clear. Western Europe's made it clear. The United States has made it clear that this land invasion, as long as there's no nuclear bomb use, we're not going to World War III over this. So I understand what Ukraine is saying, but this is something, it's like we keep talking about the same things and Ukraine keeps asking, I want to join the EU. I want to join NATO. It's not going to happen. None of it's going to happen because we don't want to get other countries involved in this conflict that right now is contained. And right now, there is still hope that this can be a contained conflict. The last thing that people want, especially NATO, their strategy, the last thing that they want is for this to start a domino effect, meaning Russia invades Ukraine, the United States sends up a no-fly zone, Russia deems that as a war act, there's World War III. We do not want the domino effect. We want, what they want is possibly a ceasefire, possibly some sort of treaty. The hope is that Putin realizes that, listen, this was just a really bad military idea. Let's get what we can. Let's make, Ukraine will recognize Crimea as part of the Russian Federation. You can have your two most Eastern-speaking Ukrainian parts. You can annex those. That's fine with many Russian citizens already living there. But you got to go back to Russia. And we've got to end this war, at least for the time being. And then just this last one to end it off. Close ties allow Russian propaganda to spread swiftly through China, report claims. Well, isn't that just great? A cyber monitoring group says Chinese sources are amplifying disinformation about Ukrainian Nazism. Taiwan-based cyber monitoring group Doublethink Labs tracked state and social media from mid-February until late March. It said Chinese sources were amplifying Russian disinformation about Ukraine and linking Ukrainian Nazism to the Hong Kong protests to encourage solidarity between the Russian and Chinese people against, quote, foreign forces interfering with internal affairs, aka codename NATO. They would say NATO is the foreign forces interfering. So that's just more, again, guys, we're seeing example after example after example after example of China, Russia, and maybe even India possibly being on the same page. And that is a very scary thing, and that's why, going back to the first topic, the NBA and their situation with China, it's horrible. It is horrible, and it's almost like if I was an American politician, it's like, we got to do something about this because the NBA right now, their balls are being just controlled by China due to their monetary interests with the Chinese, due to the amount of money they make off of China. And it's not just the NBA, that's also the players. And again, that's why you're seeing players incentivized to support China. When an executive posts something about being pro-democracy and supporting protests in Hong Kong, you've got American NBA players coming out against that because they know that China equals money signs for them. And that's how the Chinese do it. They weaponize their population. And I had no clue that China has more NBA fans than America. Or even if it's close, that's crazy. And that is an amazing, that's communism. That is the power of communism. That is, they can control their people, their government, the control they've got over their people due to their economic system they have in place is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. As a citizen, I would never want to live in that society, but if you're a leader and you have that large of a population density, especially in Hong Kong, especially in Shanghai, Beijing, To be able to control that many people in that close of an area, and you go through story every single day. I see 5 or 6 of them a day. China, Russia, their partners, they're agreeing. They will have eventually a massive military alliance to probably rival NATO unless the United States gets out of NATO. That's another story for another day. But I think the hope with this Russia-Ukraine thing is Putin calms down. He realizes this is a losing fight no matter what happens, and the United States is able to convince the Ukraine people to give up some things, just a small things. You don't have to disarm your military. Just give up some small things, and we can get a ceasefire to where we avoid a potential World War III conflict. The reason NATO isn't doing anything in terms of direct involvement is because they don't want to go to World War III over Ukraine. They don't want that. What's happening in Ukraine is terrible. The United States is funding it. The United States loves this current situation. They love, this is a pay-for-play policy right now. The United States is funding Ukraine, and Ukraine's doing all the dirty work. They're the ones weakening the Russians and the Russian armies. So I don't think the United States necessarily dislikes what's happening. Obviously, you don't want to see a country invade another country, but if Ukraine can stand up and really weaken Russia, that would be amazing for the United States, and then you could enact my hands-off policy, which would be us getting out of NATO. NATO is a very old agreement. We're at a completely different point in our history. I'm not saying we shouldn't help European countries, the bigger European countries, we should, but Russia, you want to talk about disinformation, misinformation. A lot of Americans, I won't say the word misinformation, I'll say misinformed. A lot of Americans are misinformed on how powerful Russia actually is compared to China, compared to India, compared to Japan. Russia, and it's like even that report from the Pentagon where the Pentagon says Russia has advanced technology, like that is just Western BS meant to scare people into supporting Ukraine, sending more money to Ukraine, because it's like Russia's these big bad guys. Guys, China has way better technology than Russia. Way better. The United States has the United States is like, yeah, no, we spend about $500 billion more on our military. I think we might have a little bit better technology, and we're a capitalist society, so innovation goes up with capitalism. I think we might have a little bit better technology in terms of our military due to the budget. But either way, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.